My name is Daria Diakowski, and I am the president of the Ukrainian Museum of Canada, Ontario branch of the Ukrainian Women's Association of Canada. Having joined our museum almost a quarter of a century ago, I have had the opportunity to experience the anticipation of opening and sharing many exhibits. This one is special. Please join our exhibit curator, Lily Stafford, and me in learning why.
Hello, my name is Lily Stafford and I'm the curator of this exhibit. It has been my absolute pleasure to spend the last year working on the Spirit of Beads, sharing our stories with the Ukrainian Museum of Canada, Ontario branch, and the Native Canadian Centre of Toronto. During this process, I've met so many passionate and talented artists who have shared their knowledge with me, and I've learned so much about the meticulous labor that goes into this beautiful art form. It has really been an honor to see these two organizations and the communities which they represent come together to form this partnership. We are going to begin today's event with a land acknowledgement. A land acknowledgement is a statement which recognizes the traditional territory of the Indigenous peoples who have always called this land home. Indigenous peoples have been acknowledging the land at the start of gatherings, ceremonies, and events for time immemorial. It is important for us at UMCOB to start this event with a land acknowledgement because it gives time for reflection and demonstrates respect for Indigenous treaties, lands, and peoples. We are all accountable for honoring and respecting this history of our land. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Thank you. We will now be hearing from Larry Frost, who is the Executive Director of the Native Canadian Centre of Toronto, for his opening message on this exhibit.
The Native Canadian Centre of Toronto appreciates the strong partnership we have with the Ukrainian Museum of Canada, Ontario branch, and I very much look forward to continue to work together in the days and months and years ahead. I also want to acknowledge and thank everyone here for the great work that you do. Miigwech and thank you.
The Ukrainian Museum of Canada of the Ukrainian Women's Association of Canada was born in Saskatoon 84 years ago. The Ontario branch was established in 1944 at St. Volodymyr Parish in Toronto 76 years ago. The museum was welcomed to St. Vladimir Institute in 1979, where it has flourished for 41 years. Our collection has grown to over 5,000 artifacts and specializes in textiles. The museum functions with a dedicated staff of a single administrator and many devoted volunteers. Annual thematic exhibits feature the museum's collection as well as those of established collectors and artists. This has resulted in many unique exhibits through the years. We have been very fortunate to receive funding through grants from the federal and provincial governments, which has allowed us to bring in talented young, fresh voices. The curator of this exhibit, Lily Stafford, came to us initially as an intern through the Young Canada Works Building Careers in Heritage program. This is the museum's first exhibit presented with an organization outside of the Ukrainian community.
The Spirit of Beads, Sharing Our Stories is a unique exhibit in the history of the Ukrainian Museum of Canada, Ontario branch. The Spirit of Beads celebrates the beauty of Ukrainian and Indigenous beadwork with a selection of beaded clothing, jewelry, bags, and many other beautiful items. The exhibit incorporates many items from the permanent collection of the Native Canadian Centre of Toronto alongside our own permanent collection. We have additional loans from private collectors, artists, museums, and we are very lucky to have a beautiful beaded vest on loan from the Royal Ontario Museum. At the beginning of this week, we welcomed Indigenous elder Jimmy Dick to our museum for a blessing ceremony. Having obtained personal permission from Elder Jimmy Dick and the Native Canadian Centre of Toronto, We would like to show video footage of this moment. This blessing includes an entrance song followed by a prayer of thanks. This blessing welcomes the many artifacts coming from their various homes as they begin their time with the Ukrainian Museum of Canada, Ontario branch. It was very important to us to have this blessing as part of the opening because we wanted to formally welcome the artifacts and ensure that their stay with us is a positive one. Elder Jimmy Dick's first language is the Swampy Cree dialect from the James Bay area, which is the language he will speak for this song and blessing. He kindly provided us with an explanation of the meaning in English after the blessing. This prayer is about giving thanks for the life that we have, including the elements and the plants and the animals which provide us with food and medicine. He acknowledges the many generations of ancestors who brought us to where we are today, nourishing and feeding us and the generations that came before us. He also acknowledges the future generations who will continue to support and nourish one another. When people descended to Earth from the sky world, they had to ask permission to be here and take care of this Earth. Elder Jimmy Dick says we are all like flowers. We need these elements to keep us alive, and so we must take care of them. Therefore, we must work together to support and love one another. If you do not understand the words of this blessing, Elder Jimmy Dick urged us that you can still open your ears to the words and let them wash over you. I suggest that you try this as well.
Are very grateful to you for coming to us today, helping us to come to this understanding. I think it's the beginning of something very positive.
Great.
If you would be kind enough to take it.
Thank you. Give it out. Absolutely.
Thank you to Elder Jimmy Dick. Since his presence in the museum, we all felt that the beads shone just a little bit brighter. The next video we would like to share is a personal tour of our exhibition space. During a typical in-person opening, we would always give our visitors a tour of the gallery. Since we can't do that today in person, we are providing a short walk through the exhibition space, highlighting a few of our favorite pieces.
Hello and welcome to the Spirit of Beads Sharing Our Stories. We're delighted to announce this partnership that we've been working on with the Native Canadian Centre of Toronto. The interactive virtual tour is now up on our website. My name is Lily Stafford and I'm the curator of this exhibit.
My name is Daria Diakowski, and I'm the president of the Ukrainian Museum of Canada, Ontario branch. It is with great pleasure that we invite you to take a look at all that we have been able to amass and to learn from this new experience.
So, as you step into the interactive virtual tour, if you take a right, you'll start at the beginning point of the exhibit. We start on a chronological approach, so we begin the exhibit talking about early beadwork, pre-commercially manufactured beads, and then moving into the bead trade and how commercially manufactured beads came to North America and to Ukraine. Daria and I would like to give a personalized tour for all of our viewers so that we can highlight some of our favorite pieces. We'll move you through the space, and as you move through, you'll see that the displays become more thematic. We've grouped different items together based on the type of item and where they came from. And then finally, we'll finish the exhibit with some of our contemporary artists who we're very excited to share with you. So we're going to begin the tour by looking at some of the headwear which we have on display.
You have before you here on the right-hand side the headwear that is worn on special occasions. Most of them would have been worn during a wedding. We'll take a look first at the single men's hat at the bottom. You can see that it is decorated with intricate beadwork bands. It includes some feathers and flowers. This would have been worn by the groom in a wedding party. The other hats would have been worn by women from various ethnographic regions of Ukraine. And you once again see the incorporation of beadwork bands on all of them as part of the decoration of the headwear. There is some three-dimensional work done on the one in the middle at the back, as you see. They incorporated flowers as well. Wool was used, straw was used, and all of these celebrated a young woman who was going to leave her maidenhood to become a married woman.
And on the left-hand side of the case, you'll see some examples of the Indigenous hats and caps, which we have on loan. These two here, the one on the top left and the one below it, are examples of the Glengarry style cap. So those pieces are were based off of a Scottish military hat style. You'll see there are many different variations on the beadwork. They're beautifully embellished with beadwork, both floral, and then this one has a lovely picture of a bird, so you can see that that's actually on all three sides. Below that are two examples of the smoking cap. The one on the very bottom here is an adult smoking cap, and above it is a child's smoking cap. Then we also have on the very front here of the display, there's a hunting cap. And then behind it, we have both a 6-panel hat and a 4-panel. The 6-panel is quite an uncommon design. And then the 4-panel here is actually one of my favorite pieces in the exhibit. This is something that really jumped out at me when Daria and I were selecting the objects we'd like in the exhibit. I think that the beadwork on this is extraordinary. The colors are so beautiful, it's so vibrant, and you can really see, if you get up close, you can see the artistry that was done to create this item. The beadwork uses beads of varying gradients to create almost it makes the beadwork step out. And it's also using the raised beadwork technique, so it's almost a sculptural effect as well. And now we're going to move over to speak a bit about the watch fobs, and Daria is going to introduce them.
Watch fobs were very special. This is a tradition that started in the Austro-Hungarian Empire when young women would create them in order to be able to pin them onto a young man that they wished to dance with at a ball. They later became talisman to protect soldiers that were going to war. So a young woman who was in love with one of the soldiers would create one of these watch fobs, pin it under the breast pocket of his uniform, and she would hope that that would be something that would protect him through the battles. If you take a look here too, you see the symbolism that is very common in Ukraine, and that is the lion representing Lviv with the crown above it. And here you see the trident in both of these cases. The use of yellow and blue was also an indication that these people were trying to underline the fact that they were Ukrainian. And of course, you see embroidery patterns shown in almost all of these because beading did develop their particular style based on embroidery patterns. So here you see two of them that are available for viewing.
And I'd like to highlight these two items on the left here. These, although they're very different in their purpose, we thought it would be an interesting comparison with the watch fobs. These are two examples of Indigenous Victorian pocket watch cases. So you'll see they're both ornately decorated in different types of floral beadwork. And the one up top here is an earlier version, and this one is a little bit later. You can see this watch case here it uses the raised beadwork technique. So the beadwork itself is actually sculptural. It's three-dimensional. It pops right off the object. And up top here, you see this beautiful floral motif, and then below it, we have this sweet little bird. Storing a pocket watch in this way, the owner would put their their watch inside this pocket or this one up here, and that would actually help the mechanism keep time better by having it up on the wall. Okay, so now we're just going to step over to this side of the gallery, and I'm going to speak a little bit about this case, which is very special. So this case was inspired by something which came up when I was doing my research, and Daria and I were speaking with many Indigenous artists. In Indigenous languages, there is no designated word for art, and that is because art permeates all aspects of life. So beauty is not something that's separate from the everyday, and objects are created to be both beautiful and functional at the same time. So I'd like to highlight one particular item in this case, and that's the baby belt here, which is on the far left. This is a baby belt on loan from the Native Canadian Centre of Toronto in their permanent collection. And the baby belt is a thick strap, which is typically 3 to 5 feet long. The baby belt is actually designed to be worn across the mother's chest, and it keeps the baby safe and secure on her back. You can see in this photograph an example of how it would have been used. It's traditionally created by a female relative of the mother. So there's a lot of love that goes into the creation of this object, and I think you can really see that in the beauty of the beadwork. Not only is it love towards the family who's going to be receiving this gift, but it's also a reverence and understanding of the natural world and the materials that have gone into creating this beautiful piece.
We chose also to include Dave Melnichuk, a Toronto artist, in this display. He independently came to the same conclusion that art and usefulness don't exclude, that they continue to be used together. And so we asked if he would also contribute something to our exhibit. This is the first time that he's worked in beading. And so he prepared for us this lovely piece that is traditional in style, using larger beads.
And we would also like to speak a little bit about this case here. This case specifically deals with the spiritual side of beadwork. So the spirituality in the creation of beadwork and also in the materials and the significance. So you'll see, I'd like to highlight these two items on the bottom here. So this is in Indigenous clothing, in traditional Indigenous clothing, there were no pockets. So it's common to have many different styles and uses for different types of bags. This bag on the far left here is a pipe bag. So that bag has a very specific purpose. It's intended to carry a sacred pipe, which would be used in a sacred pipe ceremony. You can see in the way that the item is created, the shape reflects exactly what its use is. You can also see in the ornate beadwork on this item that it's a very important item. That speaks to the amount of time that was put into creating it, speaks to how revered it is as an item. On the right-hand side here, we have the octopus bag. So the octopus bag is also ornately decorated with floral beadwork. The octopus bag could have had multiple purposes. It could be used to carry items that were either personal or sacred. The octopus bag actually has 4 tabs on each side. So that's a total of 8 tabs, which is where the name comes from. Another concept that I would like to highlight, which came out during our research and also when I was speaking with different Indigenous artists who helped us in the creation of this exhibit. One idea that was very interesting was the concept of the spirit bead. So for many Indigenous artists, although not all, when they're creating an item that they feel particularly proud of and it's some of their best work, they may drop in a bead which is mismatched, so it'll be a different color from the other beads surrounding it. And this is not a mistake. It's actually a sign of humility. They believe that the Great Spirit is the only being capable of perfection, and so this is a sign of humility in the face of this, in the face of the great being. If you also look around this gallery, you'll see as you're exploring, I encourage you to look at some of the pieces in detail and see if you can actually spot the spirit bead, because many of them actually do have one.
Religion played a large part in the Ukrainian family as well. If we take a look at modern creations, beaded pesanke, we have to hark back to pre-Christian times in which these particular talisman were made using the wax resist method. They protected the family. They were later Christianized by explaining that these eggs that appeared inanimate actually gave birth to new life. And so they took on a Christian meaning. We have here two creations, including the cross. If you take a look at the photograph at the back, you can see how coral beads are always accompanied by a cross in formal wear. Especially when people were taking pictures, they made sure that they put out all of the jewelry that they had. Here you can also see adaptations in a more modern time using a beaded neckband, but older forms where they used not just silver and gold, because that was certainly something that only the wealthiest could afford, but various kinds of metal in order to create neckwear, and to which was attached a cross. In the Hutsul region, this particular kind of work was done. They were experts in this particular field of working with bronze, copper, and you can see these wonderful clasps that are placed here. There's one on the back of this, so I encourage you to take a look around the entire exhibit to be able to see this, and a combination of metal that makes up the kind of bead, elongated bead, and the crosses that are attached here. There are even some that would be completely covering a chest where crosses would be incorporated into one piece, a chest piece.
And before we conclude our tour, we'd like to just speak briefly about a few of the contemporary artists who were very lucky to take part in this exhibit. Daria is going to introduce a few of our Ukrainian artists.
It's my pleasure to be able to introduce these two people who happen to be related. The mother, Maria Hadassin, and her daughter, Anna Hadassin. As is common in so much of this kind of work, the tradition is passed on from one to the other. And so you have an example here of the kind of work that Maria Hadassin has done. And you can see that she moves from more traditional and begins to explore all sorts of techniques in order to come up with something original. And then you see Anna Hadassin, her daughter's work, where she branches out into very contemporary bracelets, as you see here, pins, and even a ring. I think that it is important for us to understand that love for something can be passed on through the generations, and certainly this beadwork is a very good example of that.
We are also very happy to announce that we have the work of Maria Rapan here as well. Maria has been a huge help in the development of this exhibition as well. Maria is a renowned expert in Ukrainian beadwork. She has worked both in Canada here and in Ukraine as well. She teaches a variety of different beading workshops. She's a scholar. She's published much material about Ukrainian beadwork and done many presentations. Here you can see a few samples of Maria's beautiful work. Particularly in the middle is an interesting piece. This is a beaded mask covered in sunflowers, which Maria has made for the Toronto Bead Society's Mask Challenge on August 12th, 2020. And we're very happy to welcome Maria for this exhibit. Additionally, we are welcoming, and we're very honored to welcome Katie Longboat and Naomi Smith. This is Katie's work here. Katie is a Toronto-based artist, and she's originally from Six Nations of the Grand River. Katie has been beading for over 15 years. She's very talented. As you can see, her beadwork brings together many traditional techniques, and she's innovated the craft with all kinds of new materials, including Swarovski crystals and gold beads. Katie's work is really just a visual delight, and we hope you take the time to enjoy it during the interactive virtual tour. Additionally, we also have Naomi Smith joining us, which is a great pleasure. Naomi has also been a great help in the development of this exhibit. Naomi is an artist. She's also an educator. She teaches all kinds of beadwork workshops. She's also curated multiple exhibits, and she teaches all kinds of various communities and groups. Her work focuses on raising awareness and teaching different types of Indigenous knowledge and understanding the history of Indigenous beadwork as well. So you can see here we have a couple of Naomi's strawberries, her strawberry pin cushions. Naomi's pin cushions are on the far right here. So those are the two there. And these are Victorian pincushion style, which is based on these historical pincushions on this side of the display. Strawberries are a very, very important Indigenous symbol, which you can actually read quite a bit more about in our interactive virtual tour. We are very lucky to have Naomi here, and we're very pleased to exhibit her work.
So we encourage you to come and take a closer look. Also take advantage of all of the wonderful photographs that have been enlarged so that you can see the original way in which all of these items were worn. I think that you will really enjoy the opportunity to take a close look at the work of many, many artists.
We thank you for attending this virtual tour. We're very excited to share the interactive virtual tour with you, and we hope you have as much fun as we did exploring the space and learning.
Fantastic. So as we mentioned in the video tour, the full interactive virtual tour is now live on our website. At the end of this opening, please be sure to visit the Spirit of Beads page on our website under current exhibitions and click the link for the interactive virtual tour. From this link, you will be able to experience the full exhibit text on the walls. There are also additional videos available on that webpage, including features on contemporary artists Katie Longboat and Maria Harasim. And on the website, you will also be able to access a virtual version of the exhibit program with additional information on the featured artist.
The completion of the production of every exhibit has always reminded me of the privilege museum work offers those who engage in it. The opportunity to learn from artifacts produced through countless generations has always filled me with awe. And it is my hope that our museum's latest offering, The Spirit of Beads, Sharing Our Stories, speaks to you, our visitors, in a meaningful way. We hope you will enjoy the interactive virtual tour. Please check our website for updates on in-person visits beginning November 3rd. For access to the interactive virtual tour, please visit our website, current exhibits page, and click the link for the interactive virtual tour.
We would also like to acknowledge the support of our sponsors, which Daria is going to thank at this moment.
We gratefully acknowledge the financial support of our sponsors, without whose continued support this, as well as past exhibits, would never have come to fruition. We are pleased to have many of them joining us virtually today. These are the following foundations that have provided their assistance: the Seuss Foundation, the BCU Foundation, Government of Canada, through their Culture, History, and Sport through Young Canada Works, Building Careers and Heritage, and Young Canada Works in heritage organizations, employment and social development through Canada Summer Jobs. Government Ontario has also provided us with the following grants: the Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture Industries through the Community Museum Operating Grant, and the 2020 Experience Program. I would also like to thank a personal donor, Wally Wisnowski, for his financial assistance.
Fantastic. In addition to our generous sponsors, there have been many other individuals whose contribution to this exhibit has been invaluable. On behalf of myself and Daria, I would like to personally thank the members of our curatorial team, Anna, Kendra, and Ivanka, who jumped in this summer with incredible dedication and all brought their fantastic skills and talents to this project. This exhibit would not exist without their help. We would also like to thank Mariana, our museum treasurer. Mariana went above and beyond the expectations of her role of treasurer and became a core member of the planning team on the Spirit of Beads. She worked tirelessly to ensure that this exhibit ran smoothly, and we're so thankful for her contributions. Finally, although by no means last, we are also always thankful for the generosity and support of our brilliant administrator, Tamara. Not only does she rise to the occasion to any task that needs to be done, she always does so with enthusiasm and a great sense of humor. Thank you, Tamara, for all that you have done. We are forever thankful. I would also like to thank Andrew Waller for creating the final interactive virtual tour for this exhibit. Andrew went far above and beyond the expectations, and he was a joy to work with. It is through the generosity of Andrew and his wife, Anna Harasim, that the museum is able to access this technology. We really hope to be able to provide more content like this in the future. It is an exciting moment for our little museum, and we are delighted to share it with you. If you enjoyed this virtual opening, please consider making a donation or becoming a member of our museum. We are a small, mostly volunteer-run museum, and it is only through your generosity that we are able to create more content like this. If you're willing and financially able to make a donation, please visit the donation page on our website. Thank you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We hope you have a lovely evening and that you will enjoy exploring the interactive virtual tour, which is now live on our website. Thank you very much.